Hello and welcome to a special edition of Inside the Birds. I'm Geoff Mosher with Adam Caplan, and we are really excited to be joined by the man who led the Philadelphia Eagles in catches and receiving yards in the playoffs en route to a Super Bowl win, and that is none other than Super Bowl champion Eagles tight end Dallas Goedert. Dallas, what's going on? And it's kind of cool on a team with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith to be introduced as the guy who led the Eagles in catches and receiving yards in the postseason, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, it's still kind of hard to believe, especially because I don't think I led in a single game of receiving yards. It
Right.
was, you know, AJ would have a good game, I'd be right below him, and Smitty wouldn't do anything. Then the next game, Smitty would have a big game, I'd be below him, and so it was definitely a really fun playoff experience.
That's right. And of course, everybody gets a turn, right? That's how the Eagles offense was. And we know that you're joining us today, and it's your turn, right? To use that platform that you have now to talk about your just own personal struggle and to educate people on plaque psoriasis. So you have partnered with Amgen, and you are encouraging people to visit your website, DallasGstory.com, to get your story and tips. And really to get educated about talking to a doctor if you're dealing with plaque psoriasis. How long have you dealt with it, and how have you coped with it throughout your life and career?
Yeah, so ever since I was 10 years old, I've lived with plaque psoriasis, and it causes rough, flaky patches on my skin, but it actually starts within the body. Being a football player can be challenging because, all I care about and all I want to focus my attention on is football. But when you have these plaques showing up and they're itchy, sometimes that can distract you. And then so I talked to my doctors, and I was able to find a treatment option that better fit my lifestyle and worked for me. And like you said, I've partnered with Amgen, and I'm on an Amgen medicine. And it's been a great journey to share my story and try to raise awareness for plaque psoriasis. And hopefully I can impact some kid's life and make their journey a little bit easier. But like you said, you can visit DallasGstory.com to hear more about my story and get tips about talking to your doctor.
Wow, as a 10-year-old, Dallas, I mean, as a little kid, how in the world, like when you find this out, okay, you're diagnosed with this, there's some issue. I mean, when they tell you you have to deal with this, were you like, wow, I'm this little kid. What does this mean? Like, how were you educated on? Did your parents get involved? They take you to the doctor? Like, what was the process of all this?
Yeah, so my mom was a really big impact of it. She has a sister, and I got a couple cousins that also struggle with plaque psoriasis.
Hmm.
So you just lean on their support. I remember being a kid and having to get topical ointment to put on it, and it would be all over my back and hard to reach places. So I'd have to have my mom help me. I was supposed to do it twice a day. And as a 10-year-old kid, trying to be consistent with things like that, I always got tough. And then even till today, until I got on the medicine with Amgen, I always tried to treat it with a topical. And now I'm treating it with their medicine in a different way. And it fits in my lifestyle, and it's been a little bit easier.
Well, hey, you know what? Maybe the side benefit of also a little ointment, little lather up, is that it's hard to tackle you on the football field. You might get people sliding off. No, that's really, I'm sure you're not the only NFL player that has to deal with that. I know a lot of people in my family deal with it. And so I'm sure it's a topic of discussion along the league and how you can just do your job without being uncomfortable and itchy. But let's talk about your job, because you're back for another year at least with the Philadelphia Eagles. An offense with a lot of firepower that we talked about. But one thing that I've heard AJ, NickSirianni, Jalen Hurts talk about that I'd like to hear your viewpoint is on the idea of evolving offensively. It seems like maybe the lessons from 2023, when Nick at the end of the year said we got stale, we got to freshen things up. You guys don't want to have to go through that again. So how does this offense evolve when it's also been so successful at the same time?
Yeah, I think that end of the 23 season was, a big learning moment for all of us. We were sitting at 10-1, maybe not playing great football, but it was getting us by. And once it stopped working, we didn't have anything else to really rely on. We're like, okay, well, we'll fix it next week. And nothing really changed and it didn't get fixed. And we spent a lot of time that off season just self-scouting, figuring things out. And, obviously it kind of paid off. Obviously, when you have good players, it makes everything a little bit easier. But yeah, the evolving thing goes in so many different ways. You just don't want to be predictable as an offense. And, whether it's formations, whether it's spots that you put certain people in, we ran into a time where Devontae was in the same spot and he was running the same route every time. And, it worked a lot, but eventually they figured it out and it didn't work anymore. So it's finding that fine balance of doing what you've been successful at and finding a way to set up the defense, have them think that we're going to do something and we hit them with something completely else. And, we got the new offensive coordinator, Kevin Patullo, this year, and I'm really excited for him to be able to take the lessons that he learned from the last 3 coordinators that we had here and evolve it into his own offense. So it's going to be exciting to see where he takes us.
Dallas, tell us about Jason Michael, your tight end coach, because I remember talking to Jack Stoll about him, and he really spoke highly of him. What could you tell us about Jason?
Yeah, he's been one of my favorite coaches that I've had in my entire football career from a little kid till now. He's an incredibly smart coach. He was a offensive coordinator in Tennessee, so he understands the game of football very well. But my favorite thing is, he's instilled a lot of confidence in me from the time he got there, from believing in me, telling me to try stuff at practice. When I first got into the league, all I cared about was winning the route and, making the catch. And he had the confidence in me and he allowed me to be like, well, it doesn't matter if you don't win the route in practice, but at least you know that it will work or it won't work. And he gave me the freedom to do a little bit more. And, that's been a big part of my growth, I believe, in my career. So a lot of my success is credited to him and just his belief and, helping me evolve my game.
Dallas, I mean, you've been considered one of the best tight ends in the league for a while, and I was checking just some stats and background on you, and it just occurred to me before coming on camera with you that you had never made a Pro Bowl. A lot of that is because I know you've had to hurt. Last year, you missed 7 games. Certainly, your stats projected over 17 games might get you into that category. So I wonder, everybody wants to win a Super Bowl, but can you have a complete career in your mind without at least making one Pro Bowl team?
I'd love to be able to make one. Obviously, my first 3.5 years, I was a backup tight end behind Zach.
Right.
And then the last 3 years, I've actually been on IR or short-term IR at the end of the season, which made me ineligible for Pro Bowl voting. I think if I didn't get put on IR in 2022, I'd probably make it that year.
Yeah.
But, there's many different ways that I look at it. Obviously winning the Super Bowl is the most important thing. I'd love to be a Pro Bowler. I'd love to make that all pro. I always look at Greg Olson, who I go and talk to at Tight End University here coming up. I don't think he made his first Pro Bowl until year 7, maybe year 8. And I think he had 5 or 6 of them. So there's still hope for me. And if I put together a good season and stay healthy, I think I got a good shot to make one. But, throughout my career, I just want to put the team in a successful position to win games and have success like we did last year, because I don't think a Pro Bowl would triumph playoff experience in a Super Bowl run like we've had multiple times in my career.
Dallas, correct me if I'm wrong. Is part of why your first name is Dallas because your dad was a Cowboys fan? Again, was I right or wrong about that?
Yeah, nailed it.
Oh my God! How's your dad deal with this? You're being an
Eagle. It's one of those things where nobody wants to be a bandwagon jumper, but
Sure.
I wasn't an Eagles fan until I got drafted by him, and now I'm a diehard. I feel like I fit into the city. I actually had another brother-in-law. He was a Vikings fan, and I got drafted after the Eagles beat them in the NFC Championship game, and he said, Dallas, I don't care where you get drafted, but I could never be an Eagles fan. and now he's the biggest Eagles fan. He fits right in. He's on the pages commenting on other people, and so when you have somebody that plays for a team, it makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, either that or your entire professional career is just an insult to family members.
Yeah. Funny.
Oh, that's great stuff. I keep thinking about the touchdown against the Packers in the playoffs. You that was vintage Dallas Goedert, right? It swings to you on the sideline, you break like 3 tackles, and the next thing you know, you broke tackles multiple times on the way to the end zone in that game. Is that when you think about all the great touchdowns of your career, does that one kind of stand up and pop out? Because you guys were winning, but offensively it felt like you were struggling at that point and really needed a breakthrough there.
Yeah, it's definitely near the top of my favorite touchdowns. That one was pretty cool. I always go back to the Giants one. It might have been Super Bowl year. The 2022 year was a pretty cool, a one-hand one.
Yep.
Kind of spun in there. But yeah, I feel like that one gave us a spark as a team. Like you said, just we weren't really clicking on all parts, but I felt like it brought energy to the stadium. It brought energy to the sideline. I remember going to the sideline and talking to Jalix Hunt. That was pretty cool. He was just telling me how cool it was and how good I am, and hyping me up, which I loved at the time. But yeah, that play was one of my favorites all time.
Dallas, one more thing I got to ask you. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe you were a walk-on, were you not, coming to South Dakota State?
Yeah, walk-on, school start. Didn't even get to go to training camp, and had to wait until after the first game to join the team. So
how's that possible? How's that possible with your athleticism size?
Yeah, I went to a small school that in high school we weren't very good at football. And if you don't have an offensive line, if you don't have a good quarterback, you don't have the opportunity to showcase your skill set. But yeah, I got to give credit to there was a pastor from a town that we played, and he told the head coach at South Dakota State, they were good friends. He's like, you should go look at this guy. And the head coach at South Dakota State came and looked at my film and said, yeah, I don't know what you see in him. But being a South Dakota guy, he allowed me to be a school start walk-on, and I was able to kind of prove my worth.
Wow, how about that? Guy owes your pastor a lot. Maybe the Eagles too. Awesome, Dallas. One more thing before we again remind everybody about your advocacy for plaque psoriasis. This Eagles tight end room may be as deep as it has ever been, with some guys who have come from elsewhere. And Harrison Bryant was a Mackey Award winner. Right, Kylan Granson, we saw him do some things with the Colts as far as stretching the field. Calcaterra back, EJ Jenkins. So just give us a little scouting report on this tight end room after Dallas Goedert and what it looks like compared to what it's been in the past.
Yeah, like you said, it's probably the deepest it's ever been since maybe my rookie year with me, Zach, and Rich Rod. We had a decent little team, decent little group there, but still not as deep. We have a lot of people that have played a lot of football. It's cool to pick their brains, see what they see. They ask me questions of why I do certain things. I ask them questions. But it's different than it's been too. In the past, it was me, a tight end that can kind of do it all. Grant, more of a pass catcher. Jack, more of a run blocker. And now we have a few more people that are true 3-down tight ends. We have a couple more receiving tight ends. We have a couple more that can do it all. And obviously, we'll all be asked to do it all. But like you said, it's a good group. And I think the competition that we have in the group is elevating the entire room. And that's what you want to see. Like you always hear, iron sharpens iron. And I think that's what we're doing in that room right now, which is a great thing to have.
Sure. I would say that, and the rich get richer, right? I mean, the offensive weaponry just gets more. So great stuff, Dallas. Again, we thank you for joining us. Tell us more about your partnership with Amgen and what people will learn if they go to DallasGstory.com.
Yeah, so you just kind of nailed it. If they go to DallasGstory.com, they're going to learn more about my story, some of the things that I've dealt with throughout my life, throughout my career. And then there's also tips on there about talking to your doctor and finding a treatment plan that works for you and fits into your lifestyle.
Well, we're very happy that you partner with Amgen. You found a treatment for your plaque psoriasis, and we encourage everybody to check out DallasGstory.com, especially those. And even if you just have family members who suffer from plaque psoriasis. I know I have some to get educated, to get the advocacy, and then reach out to their doctor. Once again, Super Bowl champion tight end for the Eagles, Dallas Goedert. We appreciate your presence and your appearance here today on Inside the Birds. For Dallas Goedert and Adam Caplan, I'm Geoff Mosher. Thanks for joining us on this Inside the Birds special.